Welcome here to a special spotlight edition of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, here with Qadry Ismail, and very happy to have Qadry here on the show once again. Syracuse and NFL wide receiver, alum, and Supe Bowl champion. It's always an honor and a privilege to talk to. I call it like moving history, and what I mean by that is when you look back at a history book, you think to yourself, like, this person just kind of lasts on this page in time. And then when you get to speak with them, that moving history, the fact that they're out here creating more things to this day and doing amazing things. And it's just incredible to look at Syracuse history and some of the greats that have come from that. And Qadry being, in my opinion, in that world. So you know him as the Missile, and I appreciate having him here. Qadry, how are you?
I'm doing well. Appreciate you having me on, Dan.
Absolutely. So just to hop right into it, I mean, we're in a new era of Syracuse football. We're in a place right now where we are going into the first season under Fran Brown. And I'd love to get your initial thoughts here over these last few months of just how you see this program with Fran at the helm.
I think first and foremost his ability to connect to the real history of what Syracuse football is all about. And you'll say, what do you mean by the real history? Well, I think the coaches that came after Coach DeLeon, Paul Pasqualoni, those men who kind of forged what Syracuse football was all about, there was something I was missing, and that sustained excellence that I thought, was really important, kind of got lost throughout the years. And as seasons went on, as new coaches came and went, we meaning myself and other different alumni, we would, talk about just how, special of a time it was and how we missed that and how we'd love to see it get back to the standard of excellence that, we saw Syracuse become. And it really is refreshing when, Coach Brown is coming right out the bat and just saying he wants to bring it back to that level of prominence and let the Orange be, one of those top tier teams again that is steadily, talking about being in a conversation of an upper tier top 10 team.
Yeah, and when you look at that, like you said, you look back at that history and a return to excellence. I think a big piece of this, and something that has been on my mind for over a decade, and a huge conversation that I've had off the air and on the air, is the necessity of the connection to alumni. It completely baffled me that we were living in a world where Syracuse University's football program was detached in its current players and in its alumni, and that bridge was not there. That bridge was there in other places. And I was talking to coaches around the country saying, what's going on up there? Like, this doesn't make any sense. It's a recipe for disaster. Fran comes in, and in that introductory press conference, I knew that no matter what I asked him, I had to ask him about alumni. And I did that with alumni in the room and alumni watching. And I asked him, what do you want from the alumni? He said, come around. I want to see you. I want your presence. Have you felt that? We hear the words, but over these last few months, have you felt that Fran is a guy who finally is repairing that bridge and asking the alumni to come around, to be there and be a part of the team in the here and now, instead of just kind of being thrown off to the history pages?
Yeah, I think Coach Brown has done a fabulous job reconnecting, and it's so cool because, coming from Georgia, obviously you see and understand just this SEC richness of tradition, and it's great when you have different alum come around and be a part of the current crop. I think that's what was missing at Syracuse, and I think for Coach Brown to put that into place to make it be something where Syracuse is a special time, special place. I love it because I haven't had a chance to get back up, but I'm vicariously living through a lot of my former teammates because of social media, and that's so wonderful. I mean, it has been just amazing to see the so many guys that have gone back up and really shown up for Coach Brown. And I think, even for myself, I'm going to be able to make some time and be able to get back up to the Cuse. And it's awesome. It's refreshing, and it has been much needed.
Yeah, and seeing that as an alum, to not understate it by any stretch of the imagination, to feel that door is back open, right? It's not locked. It's not kind of open at certain times if certain events are going on. It's not just open when it comes to a deposit or two, but that door is actually open at all times. And the fact of, like you said, living vicariously through other alumni that have been up to practices. I've talked to guys, I've seen guys up there, and I've talked to guys that have been up to numerous practices trying to make a habit of it and whatnot, noting Rob Drummond, Alvin Brown, and so on and so forth. So for you to kind of go a little bit deeper into that open door policy, that come and talk to come and be around the team. I want to know you. I want to shake hands with you. I want to see what you're all about. For you personally, Qadry, what does that do for you and your alma mater from what you've had to what you have? How much of a change does that create? And just personally, what that means to you to have that open door once again?
Well, I tell you what, when it's a closed door, it's a odd and weird feeling. You get the letters of, yeah, like you said, making those donations and deposits, and then you're like, all right, but you're kind of like pushing us and telling us, you stay over here off to the side, and I don't feel that is what Coach Brown and his staff is all about. I think it is a really cool thing to have an open door policy. In today's age of college athletics, the NIL has changed the game, and you better have a strong connection with the alumni, the ability for them to come around, the standard of excellence of saying, hey, this is how we, do things. This is who we are, and that enthusiasm, that energy. It really does. It permeates throughout, the current crop of guys. There might be some little nuance that a coach doesn't know, but yet a former player can be able to share and relate with, and that could mean the difference between, beating a Florida State or Clemson, or you're sitting there and you're on the other side of the L. And so mentally, I think it really sets up a culture of, what, we're about supporting one another. You come to Syracuse, you're going to have an opportunity before you from an NIL standpoint, but also from a educational aspect of things, because, let's face it, guys aren't going to go to the league as much as they, going to want to and have your dreams and all that. And even if you do, you're only going to be there, for a quick blip of time. And if you are fortunate to do that, that's great. But if you're not, this is an opportunity to make those connections with the alumni. This is an opportunity to, forge what it is like for that second half of your life. And so, matter of fact, you're just hitting your stride. I say second half, even in the first half, you're still kind of just feeling it out and grooving and figuring out what life is all about. So I just think that the overall mindset is, hey, look, we're trying to establish what our culture is all about. We're trying to establish what the alumni looks like and sees like and feels like and interacts with us. And then I think that's where, that culture turns into a winning mindset.
Yeah, and when you look at that culture and that environment that we have here right now, there's new life, right? There's a new breath, there's excitement. I've talked to people in the community. It's different now in the sense of, this is my hometown, and so talking about Syracuse football over the years, now, it's a question that I get to me. It's a question that I've gotten over the years, but there's more positivity when people are talking with me about it. There's people that maybe I didn't talk to about Syracuse football. They're talking about Syracuse football now. So there's this like growing momentum of excitement toward it, and just this hope for the right now. I know that wins solve a lot of problems, people say, but what else, knowing what it's like to be a part of Syracuse, knowing what it's like to go through this school, what goes into it in your opinion? If you could give any thoughts to Fran Brown about this step forward. Yes, it's different now with NIL and the transfer portal and realignment just taking away geography in a lot of cases. But if you could give any wisdom pieces to the team as it steps into this new era, the hype is there, the excitement's there, but you know what it's like to not only be a part of history at Syracuse and go through those halls and be on that field, but you also know what it's like to spend a decade in the NFL. So what wisdom can you give to the team as they go into this new era?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that it is as soon as you think you have time, you don't. So I think not taking anything for granted, period, in the discussion. Don't take your time for granted. Don't take this opportunity and think that there's just going to be more opportunities out there. From a transfer portal, NIL aspect of things, I'm appreciative that the NCAA has done this because it is a case where you'll see coaches get up and leave. Heck, Coach Mack, he was my coach for 2.5 years, rest his soul. And then, we had Paul Pasqualoni come in and take over the program. But it gives you that flexibility to go where you want to go as a player.
Yeah.
My point is that the grass isn't always green on the other side. Sometimes you need to develop and have that chance of development. So don't think that you just need to just go. And allow yourself that opportunity, that grace. So that's one thing. I think at the same time, from a pro mindset, be a pro. I mean, shoot, if you want the money, the only way you're going to have it is by being a professional, being a person that people can look at and say, hey, man, I really appreciate and respect who he is on the field as well as off the field. I don't think you don't need guys who just think that it is all about them. You need guys that think it is about us and we, and using those plurals because that's where winning comes from. That winning mindset, I think it really does. It does matter. It makes a huge difference because when it does come down to that fourth quarter and you need to either make a stop or you need to make a big play via offensively or you need to create something special teams wise, that's where your character really gets shown the most. And so I think, the way in which Syracuse has been traditionally in the past, and I think that return to excellence with Coach Brown and his staff, I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it.
How does it become us and we in an NIL world where the contracts are individual, in the transfer portal where it is free agency, and the free agency is even, it's outrageous. I mean, you can go to 4 schools in 4 years. You never have to sit out. There's no more years in residency. In some cases between conferences, there was 2 years in residency if you went within a conference. There's none of that anymore. 4 schools in 4 years, 4 schools in 5 years, 5 schools. I mean, whatever you want to do, you have the free agency ability to be very individualistic, and you have the NIL money to be very individualistic. So you talk about creating a winning culture. How do you create a winning culture with we and us in a current collegiate model that is me?
The business of football and college athletics has always been with the letter B, $1 billion. And that money, I am appreciative that it is able to get to the athletes. And I know for myself personally, yes, it felt good to earn, to work, to go out and do. But it also felt frustrating when you couldn't do certain things because the NCAA, I remember the one athletic director, I had like a 15-page paper, and I remember she came up to me and like I was using the one copier at the athletic facility, and she like kind of looked at me and was like, that is an NCAA violation. And I just wanted to smack the reality into her and be like, look, I got to get this paper so I can remain eligible, but I don't have the money to go over there and make copies. I don't have the opportunity. Like, I remember if I didn't have a ride home back down to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania with some of my teammates, I just was going to just stay in my dorm. Summer school session comes around, you're sitting there and you're like, all right, I got to go to a job. Well, if you got a car, great. If you don't got a car, you're hoping and praying that you're able to get down there and get to wherever you need to get to. Shout out to Edward Joy Lighting down on Erie Boulevard. But my point is that, when I look at the way things are now, it's about time. Yes, the us and we comes in when you set a standard of, hey, man, I care about your well-being. Now, ultimately, we're going to do what is the best for this program, and we're hoping that by having the best for this program is going to be the best for you. One of the things I recognize in the league, either you do or you don't. Either way, you're going to get out of there. If you can do it, and you do it at a high level of excellence, okay, great, you're going to sustain. If you don't, then okay, somebody else is going to replace you. And there's that pressure that goes back on the athlete. And that's important to know. I don't have a problem with that. I think at the same time, again, when you set a good culture, when you're talking about, hey, guys, you want to go to the league? We get that. Here's an opportunity to have all the scouts around and see you practice and see you understand what it's like to be a professional. Yeah. You want to go to the league? Okay, show up for class. Show up on time, because that's what's going to be required when it comes to, getting drafted and having a professional team wanting your services. It's so much, but I think, again, those are bullet point items that need to be constantly looked at by the different folks and their responsibilities within Coach Brown's staff that's going to help set that culture so you can understand what it is and how it is to win. That's as simple as that.
Yeah, you bring up the fact of leadership. You bring up the fact of, yes, there's all these things and all of these opportunities that are available to these student athletes, and the NCAA calling themselves a nonprofit and raking in billions of dollars, on the backs of the student athletes that weren't getting anything for it. The majority of student athletes will never play professionally. So having that time period where you can earn with your name, image, and likeness, that they should have the opportunity to do that, but doing it in such a way where you're still teaching things. Do you think leadership-wise it's difficult to be a head coach now more than ever, though, collegiately, because of what it's become, because there's so many things to track, because in the past you weren't supposed to have agents on campus and people weren't supposed to have these individual contracts and different things going on, and a quarterback couldn't walk in and go, hey, with all due respect, coach, I like being here and I appreciate you recruiting me, but I just got offered $150K to jump in the portal, so unless you make it 200, I'm out. Like, where is this world of leadership? Because you talk about all these things about having this model and people on your staff being able to create this culture, but how do you get somebody to listen in a me-centric world to the we and to the culture? Because if they have the talent and they have the agent and they got the money, you could say everything you want to say, but they may not be listening, and you can't force anybody to do anything. You only have control over yourself. So in a world where leadership is important in general, and we lack leadership at very high levels in America, how does a coach establish themselves as a leader when these are teenagers? They're kids that may not have been raised right. They may not come from the best situations. And on top of that, they got a lot of people pulling at them before they even get into the school. So how do you lead in a world where leadership is not necessarily readily available and seen?
Here's the thing, Dan. You have to have what is called a relationship and understanding of who you are with your values, and you got to stick to that. Your integrity matters. Your values matter.
Amen.
I tell them all the time, and I'm saying it. And if you are a coach that's listening to this podcast, then the shoe fits, wear it with pride. But pretty much back in the day, into current day, coaches lie. Coaches lie all the time. Coaches are going to tell you what you want to hear, and they're going to switch it up on you. So from that aspect of things, you kind of took the power away from them. And so now those coaches, I was looking at, Texas A&M baseball, and I don't know that coach to save my life, but at the same time, he goes ahead and signs a deal with Texas. And he was all kind of offended because, someone asked him about, taking a job, or there's a rumor going around about leaving Texas A&M. And he was like, I don't know why we need to talk about that. And, he kind of did his political, maneuvering, but he winds up going to Texas. And so, they're going to use you, and the game is the game. Like, it's going to use you. You have to be intelligent enough to use it. All those coaches that lie, that want to say one thing and do another, they're in uncharted territory now, because, okay, you go ahead and say one thing to me, and then you just, talking to talk and not really, really truly caring about or wanting the best for me. Then, hey, if I do have an agent, or if there is an opportunity to make money elsewhere and or play elsewhere, then bye-bye. I think that you need to have an established culture of consistency. You need to have that relationship with the young man, and know that, look, we got what's best for you here at this institution, wherever that institution is. If it's Syracuse, hallelujah, proud Orange. At the same time, if it's not, it's not up for me, Qadry. I've already lived my life in that time frame, but it's up to you to do what's best for you and your family. I would hope that there are resources that Syracuse and other universities can provide the athletes and give them an understanding of what is what. But too many times I've seen it where they say one thing and they do another. And also, I think, too, from the purity of the coaching, you better be good. And I don't think that every coach in college can coach. I mean, not every coach even in the pro ranks, in the league, can coach. For sure, they cannot. But, you better give that kid some information he can use. An offensive lineman, you better help him understand his footwork and steps and all that. If you're a D lineman, you better help him understand. If you're a receiver coach, you better be more than just you just got to stay on, 4 yards off the hash and run straight. You better give them some information that they can use so they can get better in their craft. And I think that that's something from an investment standpoint will keep an athlete at your university. And that's, again, that's culture. That's not empty words. That's not empty words that I'm just saying. There's a whole mindset that goes along with establishing a winner's mentality and a culture of values and integrity.
Yeah, I love that, because essentially what you're saying is, no matter how much the world changes around you, if you have morals, values, integrity, goodness, if you lead with a pure heart and good intentions, that no matter how much the world changes, you could still achieve the same thing. So when people wonder, how are you successful in chaos? Consistency of who you are and why you are and what you say and what you do, and those things not contradicting each other. I mean, you really just brought it down to the brass tacks of what I love more than anything about people, and the only people I keep in my life is about people that value relationships, that are who they say they are.
And that's what it comes down to. I mean, it's again, I love college football. I think it's great. I think, the winning teams, there is a different mindset compared to just showing up and thinking that everything's going to be handed to you. No, it's a collision sport. You're going to get hit in the mouth. It's going to be days where things aren't going to go easy. This isn't, some whatever the latest game is that you think you can play and on a video screen. This is the responsibility comes right back up on you. If you want that money, you got to go out there and earn that money. Put yourself in a great position. I think there's always going to be adjustments to it. There are always going to be situations that are outliers. But by and large, if you are putting yourself in a good position with a good staff, and you're recruiting good young people, I think that's where, the winning will come. If not, then so be it. You're going to be out of a job, or the university is going to be sitting there wondering why they're not a successful program.
Coming here from Qadry Ismail here with us, and Qadry, for you, your son just got an opportunity really, really incredible. And the fact of not only getting signed to an NFL team, but signed to the Baltimore Ravens, who you won a Super Bowl with, who you got to spend a lot of good quality time with in your career in the NFL. To have this moment, he's played quarterback, went over to wide receiver, was at Villanova, in the portal, went over to Samford. It's been a ride. It's been a journey. And I'd love for you to just speak on that moment and realizing that as a family and just what all of this means.
Yeah, well, I think, again, you talk about journeys and you talk about situations of consistency and coaches lying and not really saying what they mean. I think that, my family is right there in the thick of it. And I think for me, knowing all of the things that I know, from how coaches should coach, from how teams should be set up, from what players have talent and are really serious about, helping themselves in their craft, from guys who really aren't very good and, are fooling themselves and fooling their teammates. All of it, I've seen it all, and it is appalling to me that from an aspect of Villanova, the way in which, you would think coaches really want the best to happen on the field for you, and it doesn't. Then Samford, you would think again, okay, great. The system is a really strong system, but then you start to see the little chinks there that are like, that just doesn't make sense. Oh boy, that doesn't make sense. And you got to bite your tongue. I think for my family, without necessarily just going scorched earth, I am most proud of the way in which my son handled himself because of all of the trials that he went through. I think ultimately he put himself in a better place and in a better space physically and mentally that gave him still yet an opportunity to be where he's at from a Ravens and NFL standpoint. And so that's something where, the system itself, it has its flaws. And if you get caught up in it, it could be a situation where you're, musical chairs. When the music stops, you don't have a seat, you're out. I'm very thankful that there are things that I know and things that we've kind of planned out because of his mindset and his character put him in this position.
Yeah, and and I appreciate that. I'm sure Qadir does as well. But just the type of man that he is, and to sustain and go through everything that you just mentioned and some of the things that you haven't mentioned, for him to still find himself in an opportunity where he took the personal responsibility and took it upon himself to take his knowledge, his wisdom, his God-given talent, and everything that he's had up to this point, and not make excuses, not say, well, it's their fault, or I'm not here because of this, or this coach should have done this or that. The fact that Qadir today has an NFL opportunity through all of this, just what that's shown you about the level of character of your son and the drive that he has.
I mean, I am like, you want the best for your child, and then there comes those years in the early tween, into the teen, into the young man phases, young woman phases, where you know there's going to be adversity, and so you don't want to color it like, oh, it's all good. No, it ain't all good. Life is hard. Life is challenging. There are going to be situations where you're not liked. There are going to be injuries that are going to happen. There are going to be situations where you got to adapt and adjust. And the mindset is everything on how you want to handle it. And that's where I know I am extremely proud of him for the way in which he handled himself. Easily could have been a complaining, whining, and this, that, and the other thing. Not at all. Matter of fact, I know there were times where I was, ooh, boy, really heated because of just, again, I've seen it. I understand. I see what you did there, Coach. But like, I'm like, man, you didn't complain. You didn't flinch. You didn't say, oh, why is he over me and this and that, and none of it. And just steadily went to work and just showed up. One of the coolest things that I felt, so proud of is when, we're at his Villanova graduation, we're in the locker room, and, there were other parents around, and everybody was just coming up to me and just saying how, they were so proud of how Qadir has been as a young man, and he's been as a person and teammate. And I was like, wow, that's really awesome. So we go walking across campus, taking pictures, the whole 9 yards. And I sat back and I was like, wow, this is my son, and I appreciate his character, and just saw how, there were some people on the cleaning staffs, in the cafeteria staffs, yeah. The different professors, really, good, strong, wow, hey, Qadir, giving them hugs and just interacting, and, oh my gosh, we're going to miss you and all that. That doesn't happen, just because you're, scoring touchdowns and making plays. That happens when you're a good person, when you're a good human, and that energy, other people see that energy, and that's what made me so proud in the way he's been as a person and as a human.
So before I let you go here real quick, what's the NFL getting going off of that in Qadir as a human being and as an athlete? What with this next chapter of your family that we've already been spoiled with, what does this next chapter look like?
Yeah, well, obviously there's a 90-man roster for teams, and there is, because of his collegiate resume, good, bad, and different, just not as strong, but it's about him showing his versatility, which he has. It's about him showing that, this size and this strength from a physical standpoint is good. It's sound. It's solid. But I'm a damn good football player. I can make plays. He has a tremendous catch radius. He's 6'6", but he plays like he's 6'2". What I mean by that is, any coach that knows football, the biggest thing that they always say, hey, dropping your hips and playing with a good athletic feel and movement. He does that. He does that extremely well. He has just a good awareness of himself and of his game, and I love his football intelligence. That is what the league is going to give him or get from him. He's not guaranteed anything, and so be it. That's how it is in life, and I'm appreciative of the way he's been able to handle himself.
Qadry, it is always a blessing and a privilege. I can't believe how fast time goes by when I have you on here. Like I said, it's a time capsule for me because I grew up watching you and your brother and just celebrating and wanting to collect those cards and see how y'all are doing and go back to those old Syracuse programs as well. And looking back on your history, almost 10,000 yards in the NFL in a decade, 33 touchdowns for those that need to know. We're going to let you know. But Qadry, talking about life, speaking on sports through the world of football, we spoke about a lot of things that matter in humanity in and of itself. People like to work with people that they trust and in those relationships that actually matter where there's a give and take on both sides. So thank you as always for your time and just your wisdom and your knowledge. I really, honestly, it goes by so fast that I'm like, man, I got more things to say. So we'll have you back on soon. But Qadry, thank you for everything that you brought to the game and that you brought to life and that you brought here to Wake Up Call inside of the Heritage Hill Studios.
I appreciate it, and I'm sure we will chop it up and talk some more later down the road. Appreciate you having me on, Dan.
Absolutely. Thank you.